Welcome to the PR Maven podcast, a podcast all about growing your network and building your brand through traditional and digital networking techniques. I'm Nancy Marshall, the PR Maven and CEO of Marshall Communications. I've been strengthening brands through PR for over 35 years, and now I'm celebrating the success of executives, influencers, business owners, and entrepreneurs from all around the world, all of whom have cultivated their brands and broadened their networks through traditional and digital networking methods. Each week, I interview one of these interesting and influential individuals and provide an opportunity for you, the PR Maven Nation, to gain insights from their strategies and stories. So stay tuned for this week's episode, and thanks for listening. Maven, and I have been working in PR throughout my very long career, and I have a special interest in what we call personal branding. That's what makes you stand out from everyone else who does the same thing you do, and it attracts people who need the services that you have to offer. I'm a keynote speaker, an author, and a columnist for the Forbes Agency Council and Maine Biz. My audiences have said that helping them think about their superpower has changed the way they think about their careers and their lives. I hope you like this episode, and I hope you'll share it with people who might be interested in hearing it. And with me, I'm very excited today to have Sam Morse, who is a professional ski racer of the U.S. Ski Team World Cup. And Sam is somebody who I've known since he was a little boy because he was friends with my two boys, Craig and Jamie. So welcome, Sam.
Thanks for having me, Nancy. It definitely has been a long journey. You've seen me grow up since being a little kid, and I guess I'm still a bit of a little kid, but a big kid now.
Well, yeah, it has been a long journey, and you've done so well. I'm so proud of you. You're actually at Dartmouth College in Hanover, New Hampshire right now. And we'll talk a little bit about your college career, which has been a long one already.
Yes.
So at a mere 23 months old, Sam Morse made his first track skiing at Sugarloaf, Maine. And I remember that. Anyway, we'll get more into that. But his official hashtag is Moose on the Loose, and it's based on his childhood nickname, which is Moose. And I think that comes from the fact that his last name is Morse, and he grew up at Sugarloaf, which is definitely moose country. Carabasset Valley Academy can claim that they helped Sam get on the path to speed success. The young gun did not disappoint in 2014, obliterating the FIS race circuit. And for those of you who don't know, I'm going to show off my French. FIS, or FIS, is Fédération Internationale de Ski, which is the International Ski Federation. And that's the race circuit that Sam was on, and he became the number one downhiller in the country within his age group. He then snagged some impressive results at the World Juniors on the 2014 Olympic track in Sochi, with a 4th in downhill and 13 in the combined. During the 2017 season, Morse continued the momentum at Junior World Championships in Åre, Sweden, grabbing 3 top 6 results, and he was crowned Junior World's downhill champion alongside his teammate Alice Merriweather for a USA gold medal sweep. That earned him a World Cup start spot at Aspen's World Cup Finals, where he made his World Cup debut and landed in 21st place. In the 22-23 season, Morse landed his best World Cup result in Val Gardena with an incredible 10th place in the downhill. And I remember that day. It was very exciting for all of us in his fandom, his fan kingdom. He continued his success with another top result in Aspen with a 14th. Off snow, he loves some good old outdoor adventuring, including whitewater kayaking and mountain biking. And I have to say, because I know his coach was Chip Cochran, at Carabasset Valley Academy, and Chip is a champion whitewater paddler, and I think he introduced Sam to a lot of the love of the rivers while he was
Yes.
at CVA. So, Sam, we have known each other for your entire life through the Sugarloaf community. Tell us about your ski career and how you got started on skis.
Well, thank you, Nancy, for running through my career. It's always interesting to listen to that and kind of reflect back and be like, man, this has been a long, long road. But all started back at Sugarloaf. My parents moved up there in the early 90s, and my brother started skiing. And he was my older brother. Sugarloaf was basically our big playground. It's what everybody did. It's what my friends did. So it was very natural to begin skiing at a super early age. It was just like going and playing in the sandbox. So right out behind the church where my mom worked, the ski slopes run right by. So I would be in the church as a little kid looking out the windows, being like, I want to go skiing. And sure enough, got the opportunity right before I turned 2 in the spring of 97 to make my first turns on skis. And it's been a roller coaster ride since. It's taken me all over the world, as Nancy was storytelling there. And yeah, there's a lot to it. I don't want to go too deep into it, but that's how I got going.
Yeah, there is a lot to it. And I mean, the Carabasset Valley community, is where you grew up, and that community has embraced you and your family. Both of your parents are Baptist ministers. They're the ministers at the Sugarloaf area Christian ministry. And so your family has been at the center of the community up there. And of course, your father was on the board of the academy for many years. And I mentioned that my two boys, Craig and Jamie, also went to that academy, and they're the same age as Sam and his older brother Ben. So we were always involved in the same sports and classes.
Yeah, if you want me to kind of like elaborate, obviously you did get the higher level with results, but started skiing at Sugarloaf when I was super young, then quickly got involved in racing, actually originally through the Sugarloaf area ski team through Denny Olson down at our elementary school. And that was kind of my first introduction to racing. Then quickly after that, I joined the weekend program and then went on to CVA, which is this academy that Nancy's referring to, 4 years of high level ski training at a private high school that's like focused on you getting you out on the slopes to ski every day. So definitely a pretty awesome place to be. And then right after that in 2017 is when I made the US ski team in 2014. And then I've been on the ski team pretty much ever since. So the past 10 years, been climbing my way up the ranks into the World Cup. So that's kind of a quick overview of my ski career.
Yeah. And of course, your dad is a super enthusiastic skier. I remember him like times when the lifts weren't even running, and he would drive you and your brother up to the top of the West Mountain, and then he'd drive down in the van and pick you up. Your dad was always right out there with you guys, so that was really great. So you've always been very good at public speaking to the media and the public. I've always admired how well you did with your own public relations. So tell us about your family roots and how that has helped.
Yeah, so having two parents who are ministers, you spend a lot of time sitting in the pew, essentially listening to people public speak, and you become highly critical of different techniques and try to take the best. And when we travel a lot as kids, driving around to see family in other parts of the country, and we'd always go to churches when we were on the road, different churches, like from different backgrounds, different denominations, always getting new exposures and feels to different ways to deliver a message. And I think that was really powerful in helping me develop my craft as a public speaker and just take seriously how you come across to someone. It can have a powerful impact on whether or not they're going to listen to you, or they're going to trust you, or they're going to, support you. So that's definitely where I picked up a lot of that original kind of natural foundation for public speaking. It's then gone on and grown. I also do speaking engagements now as a professional skier and a person of faith. I'm brought in to, give week-long talks to different camps and whatnot. So that's been another helpful way for me to further polish the craft.
It's awesome. And also, I think with the media, journalists like to interview you because you're passionate and enthusiastic about, and you're authentic
Mhm.
too. So I think there's a lot of athletes that aren't quite as verbal as you are, but you. Whenever there's an opportunity to do a media interview, I've always known you to step right up, and I think the reporters appreciate that enthusiasm as well.
Yes, absolutely. No one wants to listen or record or do a dull interview. And the sport of ski racing is not that big. And it always kind of irks me when my teammates and fellow competitors complain about doing an interview or whatnot. It's like, come on, guys. The only way our sport's going to get bigger is if we're all willing to put ourselves out there and take the time and talk to that reporter and get on television. So I view it as a way of helping grow the sport and pass on to the next generation.
Well, and also it helps grow your personal brand. And as I said, it helps differentiate you from everyone else who does the same thing you do. So if you are the one who is always articulate and, as I said, genuine and not enthusiastic, it's going to help strengthen the value of your personal brand. So I believe you've done a great job of
Why,
that.
thank you. You're the pro.
Yeah. So tell us what it's like to ski downhill and how downhill is different from the other disciplines like slalom or giant slalom, and what it feels like. Sometimes you're going like 85, I mean 85 plus miles an hour. That's pretty scary.
Yeah, I think my top speed recorded is around 93, so low 90s in Wengen. At Sugarloaf, we've gotten up into like 86, 87 range at Northern Finals a couple years ago. But downhill skiing is a tricky term. Some people get a little confused right off the bat. They're like, wait, I thought it was all downhill. But basically, you have like Nordic skiing and you have alpine skiing. Some people also call alpine skiing downhill skiing. But within the ski racing genre, you have four disciplines. You have slalom, giant slalom, super G, and downhill. And those are basically ranking from the most turny being slalom to the least amount of turns being downhill. And downhill is essentially skiing the mountain and not necessarily skiing a set of turns. You're more just flowing down the mountain, skiing the trail with big jumps, high speeds, and really, really long turns. It's definitely my favorite discipline, partially because in slalom and GS, you get to the bottom and all you want to know is your time. And that kind of affects your mood for the rest of the day. You're like, either I did well or I didn't do well. Where in downhill, you can come in last and have an absolute blast and be slow. But it is such a thrill just to go down some of these world-class tracks that are covering over 3 miles and you're doing it in 2 minutes, less than 2 minutes. And it's just an incredible sensation and feeling to travel down with no motor. It's one of the fastest, just human powered on ground sports there is. And yeah, it's one of a kind feeling.
And I do have to say, because I do know that you are a person of faith, as you describe yourself, do you sometimes just let it, like, believe that that God is guiding you down and keeping you safe on the mountain?
I definitely think I have a veil of protection, and kind of my evidence for that would be I've never had a season-ending injury. Not to say
Knock
one
on
won't
wood.
happen in the future, I know, but I've been incredibly fortunate. And I pose that to a lot of things. Like, I'm pretty flexible. I don't ski with a ton of risk, but I also think that God's been looking out for me throughout this journey, knowing my path. I haven't always been the most talented for my age at every level there is, but I've persevered and kept with it and stayed healthy, which has been a huge piece of that, and have outlasted many of my peers who I often thought at the time were much better skiers than I was. So it takes a lot more than just being a good skier.
Yeah. I mean, you haven't had any surgeries, have
I've
you?
had a couple meniscus trims on my right knee, but that was it. So no reconstructive surgeries or
Okay,
anything.
yeah. Well, that's pretty
Yeah.
remarkable. I'm sitting here who said I've had both ACLs and MCLs repaired, and I'm not even a ski racer, but that's just from recreational
Yep.
skiing. So, um, we talked a little bit about your media experience. Do you find it distracting when you have to talk to media, like at the finish line at a race, or do you enjoy that?
I enjoy talking to the media at the finish line. The only time that I would say it's definitely a bit distracting is maybe like when you're at the start, when you're like gearing up, ready to go, and you're
Oh,
trying to
yeah.
focus in. And sometimes there'll be someone wanting to do an interview up there, or even just simply they're trying to capture the race on television. So they'll have like start cameras and you're trying to do your warm up and they're like walking around getting the camera in your face. That can be a little distracting,
Yeah.
but that's all part of being a professional athlete, is being able to zone those out and put those distractions aside and focus on what you need to. But I enjoy talking to the media at the bottom, whether I have a good day or a bad day.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that really has strengthened your brand in a lot of ways. So you need to focus on ski racing all year round. It's not just something you do in the winter months. Tell us about how you train and race on a year round basis.
Yeah, so we pretty much are skiing almost every single month. And we do that by going to the southern hemisphere, going down to places like Argentina and Chile, and going over to glaciers in Europe. Part of that is just trying to keep up on the training at this level. If you take too many months off, you get pretty rusty. And we are skiing at such a high level of precision that we want to try to maintain that year round. When we're not skiing, then we're in the gym trying to get as strong and as fit as we can to take the forces that skiing puts on your body. When you're going 90 something miles an hour on ice and trying to make a turn, think about like the suspension in your car, doing all this work to resist those G forces. We don't have any mechanical parts. It's just our bodies and our knees, particularly taking those loads and forces. So the dryland training is really important to be able to withstand the wear and tear of a race course.
Yeah, exactly. You have to be really strong.
Yeah, strong and durable.
Yeah. And I feel like even the experience that you gain in traveling, growing up skiing and seeing the world, I mean, that helps you in so many ways. I've seen, with my two sons, how the travel and interacting with people, staying organized, having goals, reaching goals, that has helped them both in their careers. And I'm sure it helps you. And your brother was an accomplished ski racer as well. We should give a shout out to Ben Morse.
The OG Moose.
Yeah, he was the original Moose, and you were the junior
I
Moose.
was, yeah, I think I was coined, the mini moose. It
Mini
was, yeah,
Moose, that's
it
right.
all started back with your husband, or your former husband Jay, and your two boys playing baseball. And my brother definitely got the nickname first with Moose, and then I came up along, and I was Mini Moose, but I was like already way bigger than he was at a pretty early age. Definitely a bit of a bull in the china shop. And then when he finally retired from skiing, I asked him, I was like, hey, can I take on the Moose name and brand and kind of carry it forth? And he gave me permission. So I've been running with Moose ever since.
That's awesome. Well, we're going to take a short break. We're going to hear more from Mini Moose, who's now the real Moose. You're going to hear now about my experience with Pitchcraft, which is the sponsor of this podcast, and another PR professional who's from Maine, her name is Elaine Terrio Courier, who I know, like, and trust, had referred me to this company called Pitchcraft, and all of the employees of Marshall Communications have become members, and we've benefited a lot from it. So now you're going to hear from Derek and Kelsey Ogletree, who are the founders of Pitchcraft. And we'll be right back with more from Sam Morse.
My name is Kelsey Ogletree.
I'm Derek Ogletree.
And we co-founded Pitchcraft to put the relationships back in public relations. I've been a journalist for about 10 years now and was laid off from my job as an editor in 2017. I decided to take the plunge into freelance writing, and really what I noticed starting in 2020 is that public relations professionals started scrambling to really figure out how to pitch stories to writers and editors during the pandemic. So that's when we really started developing the concept for Pitchcraft, which is a month-to-month membership platform really focused on helping public relations professionals build those relationships with independent journalists and editors. By joining Pitchcraft, you could save hours of research time week to week. You'll get the opportunity to personally get to know a new freelance writer every week, the opportunity to interface with editors and writers live in monthly pop-up discussions, the chance to build community with the rest of our members in weekly calls, access to e-commerce and affiliate resources, a master pitching calendar, and more. We'd love to show you how Pitchcraft can become an essential part of your PR toolkit. If you like the sound of that, book a demo with us today.
This episode is powered by Pitchcraft. Pitchcraft has been generous enough to share a discount code to share with you. If you use code PR Maven in all caps at checkout, you will get $200 off your first month. There is a link in the show notes. So welcome back, and today we're talking with Sam Morse on the PR Maven podcast. So Sam, what does the U.S. ski team do to promote itself to the media and the public?
So the U.S. ski team is an interesting entity in which, as athletes, we are not employees of it. We are simply members and kind of volunteers, if you will, to the whole thing. So our personal brand versus the ski team is tricky. The U.S. ski team does a lot to promote its brand by using us kind of as a group of athletes, and it's doing that across social media, it's doing that across television of the races, particularly when we have domestic World Cups. Those are highly televised in the U.S. and kind of promote the U.S. ski team, as well as a lot of the sponsorships that we have on our jackets, all the patches on our suits. Those are all through the U.S. ski team. And as athletes, we're required to do stuff with those sponsors, whether it's Toyota or Visa, and that helps give further promotion to the U.S. ski team. On a personal level, they're not like technically allowed to like promote just one athlete. For example, if there's like a Toyota ad or something, it can't just be me in the ad. It has to be like me and several other athletes, unless then there needs to be like a separate side contract if it's just one athlete. So that's kind of some interesting nuances of it. And it's us, on us as athletes to build our own personal brands. The only kind of marketing space that we are able to sell is actually the 50 square centimeters on our forehead of our ski helmet. So I am a Cliff athlete, formerly Cliff Bar, and now with Cliff Family Farms. They've been a big supporter of me for many years now. And the rest of the sponsors you see are actually promoting the team. So there's a little bit about the sponsorship and some of the promotion aspect.
Well, I'll never forget when I was director of communications at Sugarloaf, and we were the official sponsors of Julie and Anna Parisian, who were from Auburn, Maine, and they were on the U.S. ski team. And I was in charge of that sponsorship, and I learned a lot, and I had a lot of fun working with them. And I had previously taught skiing at Lost Valley, which is where they grew up in Auburn, Maine. So, and also when I worked at Sugarloaf, we were the official early season training resort for the U.S. ski team. So I did a lot of work with the ski team back when you were a little kid. You might not even remember. We actually one time we did a cruise in New York City, like on the harbor in a big yacht, a fancy yacht. And we had some athletes and we had some media people, and it was very fancy. We had champagne and caviar, and I thought, oh, I like this. So that was back in the 1990s. So you were little then. So how about your social media? Do you use social media to stay in touch with all of your fans and supporters?
Yes. Yeah. So was born in 1996. So my kind of generation is definitely focused on Instagram mostly. This next generation coming up, I think, is already moving on to other things. As my parents, were the Facebook crowd, now I'm the Instagram crowd, and then these next kids are just more of the TikTok generation, I guess. I have not ventured into the world of TikTok. I figured the best TikToks make it to Instagram, and then I get to see them there. But yes, social media, Instagram, it's how we communicate with our fans. It makes for a great platform, particularly kind of the story versus post versus reel aspect. Those are kind of the three primary ways of putting out content. Your stories, we're doing a lot of like, oh, here's the sunrise of this mountain that I'm on today, and here's a little bit of like kind of day in the life view, more casual content being produced in the stories, or kind of announcements, hey, this race is coming up. Then for a more formal post, that's going to be like a results race summary, so some photos from the race explaining how the race went. And then my favorite part of Instagram is definitely the reels, and creating reels with like funny audios, trying to piece together footage from either training or racing, just to create some engagement with fans. You might like reaching new fans, people that, because you're attaching it to a trending audio, and then you get lots of views from people that maybe have nothing to do with ski racing. And then they click on it and they maybe follow you or follow the US team, and they go, wow, like this whole ski racing thing is pretty cool. And sometimes it can just be a funny audio reel that draws them in.
Yeah, can you remember like what's your most popular reel ever?
My most popular reel ever has like 3.5 million views, and it is me like skiing a series of a dozen turns through some powder, and it's to a Christmas Carol song of like, you better watch out, you better not shout, but it's about like, you better not crash, you better not die because you told your wife you were at work. And it's me skiing down a set of powder tracks, and that one really took off, which is cool. And then I would say I have a couple other, I think, in the million range, which are crash videos. People always love the crash videos.
Oh, yeah. So what is your handle on Instagram if people want to follow you?
Yes, so my handle is Sam Morse Ski.
Sam Morse Ski. Okay, so there's no moose in your
I
handle.
know, no moose. I've been thinking like, do I need to incorporate it in? Yeah, so when I started having not this past season, but the season before, so 2 years ago, when I got my first World Cup top 10, start getting some real television coverage in Europe. And at the end of your run, you have this big kind of like moment of just triumph, and you often like don't know what to do, and people just put their hands up, or there's different kind of finish celebrations. And I've been going by moose for years, and after my first top 10, my brother's like, dude, you gotta like put up the moose antlers. And I was like, what? And he's like, when you're in the finish and the finish camera like comes up to you, you gotta put your hands up on your helmet, see if I get them in the frame here, and do the moose antlers. So that has definitely taken off as my like finish signature celebration move when I have a good run. So it's not like every run, but if it's a good result and a good run, and I'm hyped and pumped, feeling the energy, I put up the moose antlers. I'm not really sure the Europeans know what to do with it yet, because they don't have moose over there. Like in Scandinavia, Norway and Sweden, they have moose, but mainland Europe, they like killed off a lot of their large mammals a long time ago. so they're definitely a little confused about it, but it's growing, it's taking off. I think we're going to reintroduce the moose to Europe in a ideological sense.
Yeah, I think you need a Bitmoji like my PR Maven Bitmoji that has
Yes.
moose. So we'll have to talk about that.
And it's been cool as I've like started doing that, and then people watch the races and see on television, and then I'll be out skiing or just around Park City or around Sugarloaf, and someone will call out and be like, moose, and then they'll like put up the antlers as like a call sign, and then you like have to like return it back. So that's been a really cool engagement with fans that's kind of grown beyond the race venue.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. That's really good for your fan community
And
to be able
my
to.
ultimate goal is when I come into the finish and I put up the moose antlers, that you get the crowd to do it back to you. And I'm a huge baseball fan, and 2004 Red Sox forever in my heart. And my dear Kevin Youkilis, when you get up to the bat, and they would all yell like "Uke," and it would sound like they were booing him, which was like so hilarious that he would be up to bat, they'd be like "Uke," and it sounds like it's booing. So I'm hoping that at some point the crowd will really respond back with moose loud enough that it just kind of sounds like they're booing me, but they're not. And I think that'll be a real moment.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, the media will love that too. So, what is your vision of the personal brand you want to present to the public?
That's a good question. Uh, I would say I've been really forced to hone in on this in starting my personal ski racing camps for kids called Sam Morse Fast Camp. FAST stands for Faith in Ski Training. And this was when I really began to leverage my personal brand and image of Sam Morse ski racer to something beyond maybe just getting a sponsorship here and there. And kind of curating that personal brand and having a vision for like, what am I going to stand for? What things am I going to be known for? And Fast Camp has been one of those. So I'm going to stand with and for an athlete of faith and what that means, and particularly the idea of holistic athlete development. So you're much more than your sport, and you can be better at your sport if your identity lies more in other things than just Sam Morse the ski racer. And that can be different for different people. So that's part of my vision as my personal brand, and how I then act and do my actual sport is trying to focus on every aspect of me as a person, not just, oh my gosh, how fast am I between the gates or top to bottom.
Yeah, I think that's great because there is a lot of pressure and stress and anxiety, having to perform the way you do. So I love the way you're emphasizing the holistic aspect and sort of like mind, body, and spirit, right?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And when you can get those things working together, we're capable a lot as humans when you can get your mind, body, and spirit to work together. And you can feel when one of those is off, like you're just like having a down day, and your soul's troubled, you're not going the right direction, or your body's like really hurting, or your mind's totally distracted on something else and you can't focus on the task at hand. So it's important to get all those working together.
Yeah. I mean, you've stayed healthy not only physically, but I think you have maintained a really great mindset, and your faith has probably helped you with that.
Yes, absolutely. Knowing that you're enough with or without the results. My favorite movie is definitely Cool Runnings, and it's a hilarious comedy, but there's one serious line in the movie, and it's when the coach is talking to the athletes about how many gold medals is enough. And he responds back with the line, if you're not enough without it, you'll never be enough with it. So this idea that the gold medal will ever complete you is certainly a false tale that we buy into. So remembering that, that's like right under my name on Instagram, is if you're not enough without it, you'll never be enough with it. In
Yeah, that's
addition
awesome.
to those kind of deeper meanings of my personal brand, I also, a vision piece of it is to be not only a ski racer, but an outdoor adventure athlete. I'm putting out content of me kayaking, of me mountain biking, rock climbing, all these kind of things, ski touring, partially because I would love to leverage a professional ski brand long after I'm done ski racing, as many athletes have done. So with companies and with resorts and things like that, to promote them and be able to create an income even when I'm not ski racing, based upon the fact that I'm an adventure sports athlete, definitely skiing being the top.
Right, exactly. But as security, you're also studying mechanical engineering at Dartmouth College. Is that correct?
I am. I'm beginning my junior year. I go just part time, go in the spring. So that's where I am right now. We have like 10 weeks off right now. The season ended before our training camps start. And I'm slaving away doing engineering courses, trying to wrap my mind around digital electronics and systems right now.
Oh, God bless you. And actually, Dartmouth does support athletes in this way, right? They have a flexible curriculum, and they've been known to support many U.S. ski team athletes. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
right now about a third of the U.S. team goes to Dartmouth, and it's mostly due to the scheduling aspect of it because they're on a trimester system, not a typical semester system. So we can just enroll in the spring trimester and crank out 10 weeks of school and then get back on the road training. So that kind of condensed nature of it, and the college has been willing to let us have these elongated college plans, if you will, which has been really great.
Yeah, that is really great. It'll be really a happy day though when you graduate.
Yes, no, Briggs Williams, who best man at my wedding, one of my good friends, always threatens that when you ever do get to graduate, I'm going to bring my kids to your graduation and boo you across the stage.
Oh, that's hysterical.
Because kids are still a long ways off for him, maybe, so the timing should work pretty well.
Yeah, right. Maybe you'll have some kids by then, too.
I think so.
So how can people get in touch with you or connect on social media? You already talked about your handle on Instagram. Why don't you repeat that again?
Yeah, so my handle on Instagram is Sam Morse Ski. And then also you can find my email and other information at faithandskitrainingcamp.com. So that's fast camp. If you just put in fast camp skiing, it'll pop up. And that has more information about my camp, but also information about me and my parents who helped me run that camp. And my email is on there as well.
Well, Sam, this has been delightful to catch up with you. And I just love the podcast because I can have a nice conversation with someone like you. And probably if I, sent you a text and say, would you talk to me on the phone for 45 minutes in the middle of the day? You'd be like, Nancy, I'm a little busy. But if you don't have a podcast, you'll do it.
Yes, this is a formal conversation. That way you lure people in.
That's right. That's my motive. So Sam, thanks a lot. And I want to thank our sponsor, Pitchcraft, who supports us in producing the PR Maven podcast. And I hope that everyone who's enjoying our conversation has a great day in PR Maven Nation. Have a great day. This episode is powered by Pitchcraft. Pitchcraft has been generous enough to share a discount code to share with you. If you use code PR Maven in all caps at checkout, you will get $200 off your first month. There is a link in the show notes.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the PR Maven podcast. I invite you to share a review of the podcast on iTunes or your favorite podcast player. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode. You can also join the PR Maven Nation on Facebook. It's free to join, and it's a great community of like-minded individuals who are all looking to learn and grow from one another. If you use an Alexa device, use your Alexa app to search the skills and games section to find and enable the PR Maven podcast flash briefing. This will give you access to exclusive content and more PR and marketing advice. Thanks again for listening and have a great rest of your week, PR Maven Nation.